In this section, I'm trying to provide an introduction to Python programming language by looking at some basic concept about this programming language. So Python is an open source and cross-platform programming language. In fact, because it's open source, everybody have access to the source code of the language, and you can see the source code of this language. And because it is a cross-platform, it means you can develop and create programs that can be run on different platforms such as Windows, Linux, Mac. So it is one of the reasons of Python popularity. And from the other side, by raising the application of artificial intelligence and by recent development in this area, Python get more popular, especially in the last 10 or 12 years. The first version of the Python was released in 1991, and Guido van Rossum, who is the creator of the Python. And today we can use the Python for different purposes. For example, for web development, and you can use the Python for server side or client side. So the client side is really new, and almost in 2022, some libraries introduced to the market to use the Python as a client-side programming language. Also, you can create different kind of softwares for different industry, for example, for healthcare, for finance, for manufacturing. So everybody can use Python for different purposes. But one of the main area is a scientific research that increase the Python popularity. Mathematics and AI and data science or artificial intelligence somehow boost the process of popularity, especially with the comprehensive packages and library that exist for AI and data science in the Python ecosystem. It make it a really suitable programming language for development AI system. Also, if you want to create a system to interact with the hardware or operating system, you can use the Python. So it's suitable for system scripting. It has a lot of other applications that you can find by yourself. In programming, I think software industry, we have two type of programming languages. Compiled programming languages and interpreted programming languages. Python is an interpreted programming languages. It means as a developer, we will write the Python code and we will save this code in a file, and then we pass this file to the Python interpreter. And Python interpreter has two main components, compiler and virtual machine. Compiler will try to convert our code. This Python code, it is a high level code. It is a really close to the English language, and compiler convert that code to the byte code, which is an intermediate representation of our code. And then virtual machine try to get the byte code of those libraries that we used in our code and combine them and create a running program for us. So in fact, the interpreter language or interpreted programming languages always they have more steps to run or to create a running program, and because of that they are slower compared to the compiled programming language. There is a lot of resources. You can check the internet to find more about compiled or interpreted programming language. I will leave that one for you as a research. But let's see why we need to learn Python. So there is a lot of, I think, reasons. Versatility and simplicity. As I mentioned, yeah, Python is really simple, and for beginner programmer, it's the best starting point, and you can learn the Python easily because it's very similar to the English language. extensive library ecosystem. As I mentioned, Python has a lot of packages and libraries for different application or tasks. So, for example, for data science tasks, you can use the NumPy for numerical computation, or Pandas for data manipulation, or scikit-learn, or but we have a lot of different kind of packages, and we can use them for different purposes. You will learn more about them, don't worry at the moment. Strong community support, because it has Python supported by a really huge body of open source developers and community. So somehow these support help the growth of the Python in the past. Industry adoption, as I mentioned, people try to use the Python in different areas, and it increased the popularity of this language. Big data and AI integration, as I mentioned, one of the main purposes for the popularity of Python is the comprehensive packages and libraries that are available to create AI system, artificial intelligence, or data science. Web development and automation, as I mentioned, yeah, exactly. You can use some Python packages or libraries such as a Flask or Django, or we have a lot of other options that you can create web application using the Python. So there is a lot of other reasons that you can think about them why you need to learn Python. But before starting anything, as I mentioned, this course is a practical course. I will try to teach you in a practical approach. So we need to know how we can prepare our system to develop the Python programming. The first things that you need to do is to install Python on your system. So you can check almost, I think, every day. Today, every machines have some pre-installed version of the Python. So you can check that one on your system by opening one of the terminals on your Mac or Linux, or command prompt on the Windows. So let me to show you on my system. Just if open the start button, and if you run the command prompt or CMD, so let to bring the window to this screen, and we can write down Python -- version. If the Python installed on your system, it will show the version of the Python that has been installed on your system. Otherwise, it will show you an error. So at the moment, I have the Python version 3.9.12, but I'm sure you will find newer versions. So if you don't have Python installed on your system, so you just need to go to the python.org, and from here you can download the suitable version for your system. So at the moment, the latest version is 3.11.4. Yeah, so now that we have the environment, what we can do, we have the Python install on our system. The next thing that we need to have is an IDE. IDE is an integrated development environment. So in fact, as a professional programmer, always you need to use an IDE to keep everything in one place. They have a different option. As a beginner, you might like to play with the Python in a Python shell. Is not a IDE, but is a suitable for start, and I will show you. And but this, as I mentioned, just a playground, and you cannot save. So let me to go back to the, if I bring the terminal back to the screen. So you just need to write down Python and press enter, and this is the Python shell. And now you can write your Python code here. For example, we can say print hello. So we want just to print hello as output. And if you press that, the enter, so it will print the hello. So this is a simple environment. Or for example, if I want to write a program for my course, if for example, if 3 students, so 3 students subscribe for this course, and they try to keep the subscription for example, 4 months, and if they need to pay, for example, £15 per month, how I want to calculate my income. So in fact, I can say I have 3 students times number of months for their subscription and the cost per month, and it will calculate the income for me. And then I can say print income. I want to see how much income I can earn. So in fact, it is 180. But if I exit, don't worry about this code. If you don't understand, I will explain that one in the following sessions. So if I exit this environment, this code all will be I will lost the code and I cannot return to this point. So because of that, as I mentioned, Python shell is not a good option to write your code, but we have other options: Visual Studio Code, PyCharm, Spyder, Jupyter Notebook. Those are some other samples of IDE that you can use, but you don't need to install them one by one. If you install Anaconda, in fact, you have all of them in one place. So it's so easy. I will try to show you how to use different environment during this course. Definitely, we will use the Visual Studio Code, Jupyter Notebook, maybe PyCharm and Spyder. I'm not sure, but definitely I will use these two. So for installing Anaconda, you just need to go to the anaconda.com/download and download the Anaconda for yourself and install this software on your system. So at the moment, I have this software on my system, and as you can see, it provided different IDE from, for example, IBM Watson Studio Cloud or Jupyter Lab or Notebook, PowerShell, Spyder, Visual Studio Code, or PyCharm. So as I mentioned, you have different options. So let's start with the Visual Studio Code. I think it will be a nice idea to see the Visual Studio Code as a integrated development environment. So let me to bring this code to the Visual Studio Code to the other screen. So it might be a difference for you because at the moment I use this environment for a long time and it shows a lot of other project for me, but you will see a welcome page for the first time and you don't need to be worried about that. So what I will do, you can open the Explorer part of the Visual Studio and you can open a folder for yourself. Let me to create a folder on my desktop. I think it will be a good idea. So if I open my desktop, I want to create a new folder right here for this project, for this course, and we will call the folder Python. Yeah, let's call that one Python course. We can let to go inside the folder and create another folder for this video. So we can call that, yeah, introduction. Great. So now we have the introduction folder. Let's open this folder from Visual Studio Explorer. So if you go back to the desktop, Python cursor, and we can select introduction folder, and it will open the introduction folder for us. But at the moment, as you can see, there is nothing inside this folder. But we can create a new file from here. Let's call this file first program.py. py is the extension for Python file, and if press enter, it will open the file for us. We can write down our Python code here. So let's keep it very simple as it is. As before, we can just print the hello as an output, and then we can save the file. And if we go back to the CMD, just let me to open the command prompt and bring the command prompt to that side. Oh, I closed the other one. Okay, no problem. So now I need to change the directory to desktop because I created that one on the desktop. Then we have the Python course. Inside the Python course, we have introduction, but I think one-introduction. Great, now we are inside this folder and we can say Python interpreter run this program for us. Which program? The code that is inside first Python first program.py. So in fact, we will pass this file to the Python interpreter to run the code inside this. And as you can see, it will print the hello as an output. This is a output of this program. But one of the beauty of Visual Studio Code is that because it's an integrated environment, so you can access the terminal just through the terminal menu. You can open a new terminal and it will show you this terminal. So in fact, now I can run the same code from this terminal inside the Visual Studio. So we can say Python run the first program.py file. And as you can see, because the pass to the file is okay, so we can directly call the Python interpreter to run the code. Yeah, and this is a very simple way to run a code and save the file, the code inside the file in the Visual Studio Code. So in the next video, I will show you more about those concepts and you will learn more.